Hello, and thank you for joining our presentation. My name is Tramane Marcano-Baker, and I will be introducing our presentation for FOUN1001. In this presentation, we will be critically examining an outline submitted by a student. The assignment required students to produce a formal topic-to-sentence outline based on the topic Repercussions of Poor Economic Management in a Named Society. However, the examiner indicated in the feedback that the outline did not meet the required standard. Specifically, improvements were needed in structure, presentation, and clarity. Our presentation will evaluate these comments and determine whether we agree with the examiner's feedback. We will analyze key weaknesses in the student's outline, including issues with structure, coherence, and the use of complete sentences. We will also provide recommendations for improving the outline so that it reflects the correct format. In addition, we will justify the most suitable expository method and explain why it is appropriate for this topic. Finally, we will demonstrate how to develop an effective introduction and how to apply the T structure to build a strong body paragraph. Through this discussion, we aim to show what makes an outline clear, coherent, and academically appropriate. I will now pass you over to Crystal Komalram.
Thank you, Tramane. Let's begin by looking at the student's outline alongside the examiner's feedback. The students clearly attempted to address the topic, Repercussions of Poor Economic Management in a Named Society. However, the outline does not meet the expectations of a formal topic-to-sentence outline. One major issue is that the outline relies heavily on bullet points and phrases rather than complete, well-structured sentences. In academic writing, especially at university level, expository writing, namely the cause and effect analysis, outlines must present full sentences that clearly express each idea. Additionally, the thesis statement is too vague. It states that poor economic management leads to negative outcomes, but it does not specify what those outcomes are or how they will be developed in the essay. This weakens the direction of the entire outline. The examiner also pointed out problems with clarity and presentation. For example, sections such as description of main points and examples and evidence are instructions rather than actual content. This shows that the student has not fully developed their ideas. Furthermore, there is a lack of alignment between some subpoints and their headings. For instance, under increased poverty, the first point refers to social unrest, which does not directly reflect poverty. This affects coherence and relevance. Overall, I agree with the examiner's feedback because this outline lacks the structure, clarity, and sentence development required for a formal academic outline. I will now hand you over to Lamece.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, my name is Lamece, and I will be taking you through the critical appraisal. Building on the examiner's feedback, we can now critically appraise the student's outline in more detail. Firstly, there are clear problems with the topic and thesis statement. The student does not identify a specific main society, which is required by the question. In addition, the thesis lacks precision and does not clearly outline the specific repercussions that will be discussed. As a result, the overall direction of the essay is weak. Secondly, there are significant issues with the subtopics and topic sentences. In a formal topic-to-sentence outline, each subpoint should be expressed as a complete sentence that clearly presents the main idea of a paragraph. However, in this outline, some points are incomplete, vague, or too general. There is also a weak alignment between the subtopics and the theses, and not all points clearly reflect the concept of repercussions. Finally, there are structural issues with the outline format itself. The outline is not presented in the required topic to sentence format and does not use the table structure that was taught. Instead, it includes notes and prompts rather than fully developed sentences. This reduces clarity, organization, and overall effectiveness. These weaknesses impact the clarity, coherence, and logical flow of the outline, making it difficult for the reader to understand how the essay would be developed. Therefore, significant revisions are necessary to ensure that the outline meets academic standards and effectively communicates its ideas. I now pass you over to my group mate, Justin.
Well said, Lamece. Thank you. Before developing an essay, it is important to justify the expository method being used. In expository writing, the method determines how ideas are organized and presented. A clear justification shows that the writer understands the demands of the questions and has selected the most appropriate way to explain the topic. Without this, the essay may lack focus, structure, and logical development. For this topic, repercussions of poor economic management in a named society, the most suitable method is the cause and effect analysis. This is because the key word repercussion refers to outcomes or consequences. Therefore, the essay is required to focus on the effects of poor economic management rather than explaining how it occurs. This makes cause and effect analysis the most appropriate approach, as it allows us to clearly link the cause to its resulting effects. I will now present the justification of the expository method. The expository method selected for this assignment is cause and effect analysis. This method is appropriate because the topic focuses on the repercussion of poor economic management in a named society. Repercussion refers to the consequences or outcomes of an action, which means the essay must examine the effects rather than the causes. Cause and effects analysis allows for a clear relationship to be established between poor economic management as the cause and its resulting effects, such as increased poverty, rising unemployment, and business closure. It ensures that each effect is logically connected to the central issue and supported by evidence. Additionally, this method promotes structured organization, as each body paragraph can focus on a single effect, ensuring clarity and coherence throughout the essay. Therefore, cause and effects analysis is the most appropriate method, as it enables a clear and logical explanation of the consequences of poor economic management. The next slide shows a corrected topic to sentence outline that will be expounded on my group mate, Kamisha.
Thank you, Justin. Having identified the weaknesses in the student's outline, we now present a corrected version that reflects the proper format of a formal topic to sentence outline. Firstly, the broad topic has been clearly stated as poor economic management in Guyana, and the topic has been narrowed to focus specifically on the effects. This ensures clarity and relevance to the question. The thesis statement has also been improved. It now clearly identifies the main effects to be discussed, namely increased poverty, rising unemployment, and the closure of businesses. This provides a clear direction for the essay and ensures that all points are aligned. Additionally, the outline is now presented in the correct table format as taught in the course. Each subtopic is directly linked to a corresponding topic sentence. Most importantly, each topic sentence is written as a complete sentence and clearly expresses a single main idea. Each one also directly reflects an effect of poor economic management, ensuring consistency with both the thesis and expository method of cause and effect analysis. Overall, this revised outline demonstrates proper structure, clarity, and logical organization, making it a strong foundation for developing the essay. I now hand over to Lamece.
Thank you, Kamisha. An effective introduction is essential in guiding the reader into the essay. In a cause and effect essay, the introduction must move from a general idea to a more specific focus on the issue being discussed. This helps to establish context and prepares the reader for what will follow. In terms of structure and flow, the introduction should follow a logical sequence of ideas. It should begin broadly, then gradually narrow down to the specific topic while maintaining clarity and coherence throughout. There are also key elements that must be included. The introduction should start with a general statement about the topic, followed by relevant background information. It should then narrow the focus to poor economic management and clearly indicate that the essay will examine its effects or repercussions. Finally, it must end with a clear and specific thesis statement that outlines the main points to be discussed. Additionally, the language used must be formal, precise, and focused. Unnecessary details should be avoided, and the introduction should remain clear and direct in setting up the discussion. Now, looking at the example provided, we can see how these elements come together effectively. The introduction begins with a general statement about economic management, then provides context about the role of governments. It gradually narrows the focus to poor economic management in Guyana and highlights its negative impacts. Finally, it ends with a clear thesis statement that identifies the main effects: increased poverty, rising unemployment, and the closure of businesses. Overall, this introduction is effective because it is well structured, focused, and clearly prepares the reader for the essay. My group mate, Justin, will elaborate on the upcoming slide.
Lamece. Now that you have established the outline and introduction, the next step is developing the body paragraph using the T structure. This is a method used to ensure that each paragraph is clearly developed and logically organized and fully supports the main idea. The first element is the topic sentence. This introduces the main effect being discussed in the paragraph. In this case, the paragraph begins by stating that increased poverty is a major consequence of poor economic management in Guyana. Next is the explanation. This part explains how or why this effect occurs. Here, it shows that ineffective economic policies can lead to limited job opportunities and reduced income levels. The third element is examples. This provides a specific illustration of the effect. For instance, when inflation is not properly controlled, the cost of goods and services increase while wages remain low. This is followed by evidence. Evidence supports the example and strengthens the argument. In this paragraph, economic reports are used to show that rising living costs in Guyana place financial pressures on households. Finally, the paragraph ends with significance or summary. This reinforces the main idea and shows why it is important. It links the effects back to poor economic management and highlights its impact on living standards. Overall, the T structure ensures that each paragraph is clear, detailed, and logically developed, making the argument more convincing and academically sound.
In conclusion, we critically appraised the students' outline and agreed with the examiner's feedback. We identified issues with structure, clarity, and sentence development, including a vague thesis and poorly aligned ideas. We then presented a corrected outline, justified the use of cause and effect analysis, and demonstrated how to develop the introduction and body using proper academic structure and T's. Overall, this highlights the importance of clarity, organization, and using the correct method in academic writing. Thank you.